Welcome back, everyone, for yet another episode of Super Voice 2022, the first reality show in testing space by Synapse QA. I'm your host, Safinah, and you are watching the fourth episode of Super Voice. This is a knockout rounds where our contestant will be sharing their knowledge on the theme technology in testing. Something about the previous episode that I would like to recap for our audience today. Josley has been talking about how to revive the visual validation, and from Trisha, how to conduct the SEO testing, and from Raman about the DevOps space. Without further delay, I would like to welcome our awesome judges of Supervoice. Let's welcome Julia onto the stage. Hi, Julia. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right. So basically, Julia is the head of training and development at Quality Works, and she has been speaking at over 30 events so far. Okay. I would like to also welcome our next judges, Naveen. Hi, Naveen.
Hi,
How are you,
Safinah. How are
Naveen?
you?
I'm good.
I'm good. Thank you. Great to be here
I'm good.
again.
All right. Thank you so much. So basically, Naveen is a seasoned performance engineer with over 15 years of experience in architecting, designing and development of applications, automating, and also doing CI/CD solution, just to name a few. All right. So without further ado, we would like to start our very first presentation from Jency. Let's welcome Jency on stage.
Hi, Safina.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, right? So basically, our first contestant, Jency, is a certified tester and also an agile tester with over 9 years of experience in ETL testing and API testing. She basically loves blogging and participating in tech communities. So, Jency, are you ready to present?
Yes.
All right, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you, Safina. Warm greetings to the panel of judges today and my fellow friends who are going to the screen with me in today's knockout session. Welcome you all to my presentation. So the topic that I have for today is Let's Flow with the Flows. Although Shafina gave a very good introduction about me, I see the judges are new to me actually from the previous round. So I thought of giving a quick intro about. Currently, I'm working as a senior QA engineer at Millennium IT Services. I'm into this industry for almost right now 9 years now. Some personal facts about me: I'm a mom of a 4-year-old kid. I'm a certified mentor from Mentoring Club, wherein I try to mentor budding testers who are new into the software testing field. Also, I hold ISTQB, CTFL, and CTAE certification. I have an interest in writing articles. That's where I wear a hat of a blogger. In recent times, I have started to communities, especially testing communities. So that's a short intro about myself. So, what I have in store for you all today, we'll be knowing, or I'll be giving you a glimpse of low code, no code. So, this is the hint that I'll be stressing the topic about low code, no code today. In relation to that, I'll be talking about flows. This is nothing but a new feature that is like being showcased by Postman team. Postman is basically a very popular API development environment. So they have come up with low code feature known as flows. So we'll be talking or we'll be knowing about flows today. Just to have a better view of flows, I'll try to correlate with the traditional API test automation approach. So if we understand what is existing, then only it will be cool to understand something new that is being done by any tool. So I'll be talking about the API test automation approach, after which we'll be knowing about the concepts that are tied up in flows in detail. Later on, I'll be exploring the use cases that I have understood while exploring flows. Finally, I'll end my session with some interesting examples that I have created using flows. So let's get started off with it. Low code, no code. This is something, I can say, a new era that is happening right now. Digital transformation is a kind of phenomena that has been happening for quite a long time, but I would rather say that it was going in a very slow pace until COVID came as a surprise for all of us. Why I say is like, when we were all stuck inside our home, the dependency of to digital world, to enable online services increased on a faster pace. So we were more dependent on digital services. So what this led to is like that led to requirement of more applications to be built in market. I had a chance to see one of the interview by the Kissflow CEO, Mr. Suresh. He had an interview with Singapore Business Review company, magazine company, where he was talking about low code no code scenario. What he was mentioning in his interview is like, um, uh, after pandemic hit, basically the requirement of creating huge number of applications has increased on a rapid pace. The number that he mentioned was quite surprising for me. What he meant was like, there is a need of 500 million applications to be developed in order to meet this digital transformation down 5 years down the lane. So keeping all these concepts in mind, so if we have to build such a huge number of develop or we have to build or develop certain huge number of applications, we would obviously need more developers to be take part in building these applications. So ideally this is something challenging stuff to handle. So what can solve this problem is like that the solution to this problem is nothing but low code and no code. So low code and no code is nothing but where anybody who has limited knowledge about any programming area or who has limited awareness about technical stuffs can participate in building or testing an application. So what I mean here is like even business people can connect with the technical team like developers to build and test your application. So this is a quite short or simple background about low code and no code. So somebody can think like, okay, Jency, you're talking about low code, no code. So what are the different tools that are tied up to low code and no code approach? So since we are more focused towards testing space, I have jotted down here some of the best codeless testing tools that are right now available in market. In This is a list of tools that I got to know. And in similar lines, Postman also came up with a low code feature known as flows. Flows is basically right now in its open beta version. That's point number one that I wanted to highlight before I proceed further. Since I am a day to day user of Postman and I have a connection to this Postman tool solely, so I started exploring this flows concept on my own. And here I am to share my learnings with you all today. I strongly believe that testing a product is a learning process, but the best part of it is when we learn and communicate or educate what we learn to others. So I am here to share my learnings about flows with you all today. So, before me jumping into flows concept to the core topic, let's understand how the traditional API test approach is done in Postman. So, normally it is done in various steps. So, let me try to elaborate it for you. My step number one is like we have to basically understand the API that we will be working. How we will do that? We have to explore the API doc that is shared to us. The step follows to it is we need to build the test suite. So how do we do that? In Postman there are certain things that we need to take note. The point that first we need to start with test building a test suite is like we need to create collection. What is collection? Collections are nothing but a group of saved requests. When I mean request, it is nothing but the API endpoints that you will be working on. Once your setup is all done, we will be adding assertions to our request. What is assertion? Assertions are nothing but the test cases that you will be working on. So Postman has a beauty in it. It has inbuilt snippets for us to guide in creating our assertions. Okay, now we are done with the assertions. So how do I ensure to communicate the request between them? There comes the chaining process. So where you will be chaining your request within your collection and you are done or you are ready with the test suite build. Once your build is ready, what's next? We need to verify the test suite that we have developed. So Postman has an inbuilt feature of Postman collection runner where you can run the collection from the collection runner itself, which is inbuilt in that tool, which helps you to validate the different assertions that you have created. Also, to an add-on, the next step is like there is a possibility of integrating your test suite with some source code repository. So it is just a one time setup that you need to do in Postman, which helps you to back up your collection with your source code repository, for example GitLab. So you can tie your collection with the GitLab account so that whenever you're working with your collection, it helps you to back up all the things that is like done in that collection every now and then. Finally, you also can build or add a build to your repo, that is the source code repo, in order to make it a full-fledged API test automated approach. So this is how the usual flow looks like. So since I'm talking more, let's have a look by taking an example of a video. So in this video, I can just show you. So normally we work in workspaces in Postman. So this is a collection. What are my collection? I have 3 requests under which. So here I have added few basic assertions to my request. And once my assertions are all done, I have added the chaining process as well. And then I'm all good to run my collection. So how do I do that? There is an option called run, which is nothing but the collection runner, which helps me to run the collection. Also, like I said, we can integrate our collection with our GitLab account to maintain the collections that we have created. So here it's just the integration concept where it's just one time setup, like I said, and you can just back up your collection every now and then. Also, you can just build your CI/CD pipeline also along with your repo in order to make it a full-fledged automated API test automated approach. That's about traditional automation. So now somebody can ask me, okay Jency, now you're saying that your traditional approach itself is letting you do whatever is needed to automate your API testing. Then why does flow come into picture? What is the need of it? So when this question was raised to the Postman team who was basically working on flows, what they answered is like there are two things that they highlighted. One was in the collection runner in traditional approach, what is happens is like if I have to make my request which is available in collection A to communicate to a request that is available in collection B, there is no possibility to do so. So in that scenario, flows can be handy. Flows works basically in an workspace, so you can make sure that your request in collection A can communicate to request in collection B. That is one importance of flows to be introduced. Another important factor is like they wanted to make Postman to as an user friendly tool for people who doesn't know even who are very new to the programming field, or who doesn't have much knowledge about Java scripting, which is needed when it comes to API automation. So these are the two basic reasons why flows was introduced. So now that we know the background, let's understand what exactly flows all about. Flows are nothing but group of blocks. We'll come to know about blocks in the later part. For now, just remember that flows are nothing but group of blocks. So like I said, it is a codeless approach. The second point, it is a workflow builder. Flows are nothing but, if you have to visualize, it is nothing but a workflow that you define for a particular scenario. Third thing, it is based on flow based paradigm. There are many programming paradigms, so flow basically follows the flow based paradigm. In simple terms, if I have to say what is flow based paradigm, it is nothing but a graphical way of creating computer programs with flows instead of writing lines of code. Like I said, yes, it's a workflow that you have to design. So where do we define it, or where do we design it? We design it in a Canva that is provided to us by Postman tool. It's just a drag and drop feature that you have to use to define your blocks or define your components to build your workflow. Also, it is available both in web and desktop application. Like I said, it's a beta version which is available in both the format. So now we have understood the background of flows. Since I stressed that flows are, group of blocks, what exactly is this blocks? Blocks are nothing but the fundamental components that builds a flow. In our previous slide, we mentioned flow as a workflow builder. So in order to make it a full-fledged workflow builder, we need different components to perform our operation. So that's where blocks comes into picture. So what kind of things that blocks will be doing? It can carry out certain operations. When I mean, it can perform arithmetic operations for you. For instance, if I have to perform some if I have to add certain features, if I have to come create some conditions where one request value is one response value is greater than the another response value, some kind of arithmetic operations that I have to perform. If I have to convert my string to certain lower cases, so those kind of operations also can be performed by blocks. Not only this, it can hold value for you. If you remember in my previous talk, in my previous slide, I was talking about chaining request. Chaining request is possible when variables are included in your scenario. So blocks can do or blocks can function as a variable as well for you. You can also predefine certain actions within the block for you to perform it in the scenario that you define. Having all these said, um, a block can be executed only when all the data is available in its input port. So this is one constraint that we need to keep in mind when building flows. So now that we have understood blocks, we should also know what are the different types that are tied up in blocks. So before I deep dive into that area, allow me to quickly give you an important note here. Like I said, flows is in its beta version right now. The team is continuously working on building blocks. So at times they are removing certain blocks, at times they are adding new blocks. So let's say if I'm explaining certain things today, maybe when you try to explore it by yourself, that particular block may be deprecated. So please don't get confused in that area. Once the final version of the flow is like launched to the public, there can be many changes like available from the current presentation that I'm showcasing. So that's something that I wanted to highlight before I talk about blocks. So let's move to the topic, types of blocks. Basically, the team has like designed three, or they have categorized the blocks in three different areas: task blocks, value blocks, and operation block. What is task blocks? Task block is nothing but, as the name suggests, it performs a particular task. For example, if I have to hit an endpoint, or let's say if I have to send a request, what component or what block do I use? There is a block named as send request, which enables you to send your request. The next block is about value blocks. What does value blocks do? It helps you to store data to process it in your workflow. So for example, one kind of block I can say is like durables. They act like variables in the traditional API automation that we work in Postman. The next type is about operation blocks. Operation blocks are nothing but which helps you to perform certain actions. Like I was talking about the arithmetic operation, Boolean operation. So those kind of operations can be performed easily using these kind of blocks. There are n number of blocks tied up to each of these types. Due to limited time constraint, I'm not going to talk, or I'm not going to explain all the different types of block, but for now you can just understand, or you can just remember that high level there are three different types of blocks, and within which there are different types tied up to it. So now that we have known a quick background of what is flows, what is blocks, and different types of blocks, then somebody can think, okay, so what is the basic need, or what we can do with flows? So based on my understanding and the and findings that I have done by after exploring flows, I try to jot down four different use cases that help me to understand flows in a better manner. There can be n number of use cases when you will be exploring it. So these are something that I learned it from my exploring of flows. So the point one in the use case is need of multiple collections. In my previous slide also I spoke about this. Let's say if I have to make my request in collection A to communicate between my request and collection B, how do I do that? Flows can be very handy to do that. Like I said, flows will be working into your entire workspace rather than in a single collection. Point number two is about logics. When there is a business logic which needs more complex features to be added on, and you have limited, or you have very limited awareness about the technical steps in that area, flows can give you a helping hand by creating workflows. The next point is about regression test. There can be scenarios where you're working in multiple where you're working in a project where the requirements get changed on a frequent basis. So how do you tackle your regression test suite? In that case, you can design a workflow dedicated for your regression test, and just, you can, in one click, you can just check whether your regression test pass or fail. Finally, flows can be used as a monitor as well. Let's say you're working with multiple collections, with which is tied up to multiple projects, but in certain point of time, a work comes parallelly in all the projects. So how do you tackle that your endpoints are up and running fine or not? How do you do that? You can design a dedicated workflow just to check the health of your APIs, or check the health of the endpoint that you will be working on, by which it is pretty easy for you to kickstart with your work. In that manner, flows can act as a monitor for us. So these are the use cases that I have elaborated based on my knowledge of flows. So enough of talking. I think we can directly jump to the demo part to know more about flows. So let me quickly start, like, how do we build flows normally? So in the workspace, like I said, flows will be like available. So in the left panel, this is the flow, and there are two options by which you can create flows using plus icon and new. Once you click on plus icon, the Canva page is like loaded, and towards the bottom you have the block. You can select the block that you need, and then just start creating your workflow, and with the start button, it helps you to kickstart with your flow. So this is how you have to get started with flows. So let's move ahead. It's demo time now. So I quickly share my Postman in front of you. So like I said, Postman is basically available in your workspace. So I have many workspaces. Right now I have chosen the workspace that I have designed, or I have created for showcasing the flows. So from flows, like I said, there are two options: create new and new. This is where you can create your flows. So to give a demo, I have created 4 different use cases for you. Let's go one by one. Health check. Like I said, flows can help you to create, or help you to monitor your endpoints, whether it is working fine or not. So let's say this is the component that helps you to hit an API, and this is something that I have used as a check component, which helps me to check whether my status code is like 200 or not. Like I said, it flows, you can use collections, you can use requests which are, flown within the workspace. If you see, these are the different collections within my workspace, and under which I can just select any of the endpoint that I want to check, and just hit the start button. Let's see how does it look. So once this is executed, we have an option known as terminal. This is nothing but like a console which helps us to determine whether the execution was fine or not. So I have designed a terminal specifically for this particular flow. So you can just navigate to the terminal that is created. So if you see, the API is, up and running, and this says that my API is up and you're good to start with your work. So this is how flows can be handy in monitoring your APIs. The next thing is about looping concept. I have a requirement where I have an API known as Cocktail API, and in this API I will be getting the responses of multiple drinks that are available, and my requirement is that I need a drink blue margarita to be displayed in my terminal separately, and other drinks to be displayed in my terminal in another terminal separately. So how do I do that? For this, in traditional approach, we might use for loop concept. So here what we will be using is the for each component or the block, which helps us to, iterate through the response that will be provided to us by the endpoint. After which I am passing a condition which lets me know that I need the details of blue margarita, and then it will be printing it into my terminal separately, and other drinks to a separately. So how does it look like? Let's have it a look. So once my flow is like executed, if you see, there are 2 different terminals that are like generated. So when I click on blue margarita, I have the details of my blue margarita drink, and when I click on other details drink, I have the details of other drinks. Not only this, let's say I have a requirement where I need to get the response from multiple endpoints. So I have two different endpoints. My first endpoint will be giving me the temperature of a country known as Singapore, and the next request will be giving me the temperature of Tokyo. Let's say I want to check whether my temperature in Singapore is greater than the temperature in Tokyo. How do I do that? So here I am like using the check component again to check whether the temperature is greater than or not. Also, I want to know what is my current temperature. How do I do that? There is a feature known as test summary which can help me to capture all my assertions that I designed it for this particular request. So once I hit this particular workflow, what happens? Let's see that quickly. So if you see here, let's first check what is the temperature. So the current temperature here is something like Tokyo has 29 and Singapore has 26. So Tokyo is something like greater than Singapore. So ideally my terminal will not be like executed. So let's check if the terminal got generated or not. If you see, my terminal was not generated. So this is how beautifully the workflow runs. My next workflow is quite interesting, I can say. The design that I have shown here is like I have a requirement where I have an endpoint which lets me to know that if I need to water my plants or not. How do I do that? This endpoint, what it does is it checks my water level in the plant, and just in case if it is less than 100, in that case it will let my request know that you need to water the plants, and the request will water my plants. Also, it will give me a notification in my Slack account saying that your plants is watered. So how user friendly it is, isn't it? So here I have used the concept of variables. Like I said, we have durables, which replaces the variable concept in traditional API test automation. So this is the component that I have used, and rest follows the same like I explained in my previous flows. Let's see how it looks like. So right now my flow was run, and let's go with the test report first. So in my test report, I wanted to capture whether my plant was watered, whether my plant after watering a message was sent to my Slack account. So if you have noticed, when I was running the workflow, a notification of my Slack account was enabled. I'll quickly show in my Slack. If you see, this is the message that got popped. So this is how you can integrate even your messaging channels within flows. So this is how, or this is the beauty of flows, I can say. So anyone can design flows very easily. So that was about the demo part. Before moving to the final session, my some personal thoughts I would like to highlight here. Like I said, it's in the beta version, and it was not at all hard for me to explore flows. So even people who are very new to JavaScript, or who would want to use Postman without knowing JavaScript, can explore flows. It is open widely for a whole set of new audience, and yes, without doubt, flows will win your hearts. So please give it a try. Let's quickly recap before we wind up what we learned for today. I just gave an idea about the new era, that is low code and no code. We had an understanding of the traditional API test automation, followed by we also learned the Postman's low code concept. That's nothing but the flows. I explained what exactly is flows, how important it is for in API automation, and finally we ended the session with the demo with some interesting examples. So I would like to thank Slides Carnival for giving us wonderful free templates to create our slides. Also, I would like to thank Priscilla for reviewing my presentation. Finally, thank you all for giving your valuable time to listen to my talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I feel that you have prepared well and you are really working your best effort, utilizing all the times that you have. So yeah, that is just my personal view. So let's hear from the experts. So I would like to
Sure.
call upon first. Julia, where are you?
Hi. Um,
Hi,
yes,
Julia.
so hi, Jency. Thanks for sharing with us. That was really interesting. What I liked about it was your slides. I like that you organized what you were going to say. So you gave us an introduction to what you were talking about, you also gave us the definitions that we needed. So you talked about what are blocks, what are flows, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that you prepared the demonstration that you wanted to do, so that helped you to cut down on time instead of trying to do it live. You had exactly what you wanted to do. I like that everything worked, so that was really good as well.
Yeah,
A lot of
I
times
was
we
a bit
try to
worried on
do
that.
yeah, a lot of times we try to do demos and then sometimes, technology, but I'm happy that everything worked for you. Some areas of improvement would be I saw where you had like your Twitter tag at the end. If you could have your Twitter tag on each slide, that's really good. So if I'm
Okay.
watching your presentation and I see where you're saying something that I want to share, I immediately know where to find you. Some of the slides I felt were, for example, your very first, not the really first one, but where you were first talking, you spent a bit of time on that slide explaining a lot of things. So if that could have been broken out into different slides so that I could follow along with where in your presentation you were, because at one point I was wondering if were forgetting to like move forward with your slides, but really you were just explaining for a little while there.
Okay.
Um, Outside of that, in the beginning you were a bit nervous, so you were using a little bit of filler words. You were using words like and like, but as you moved on, you really came into it and the nervousness passed. With the time, I do understand there was some time constraint, but you were moving at just a little bit fast. So by the time I understood what you were saying, you were already moving on to something else. So it took a little while for me to catch up to what exactly you were saying. But overall, I think you did a great job. I really liked the topic, really liked your demo. I really liked the color of your slides. It was really interesting to look at, especially the last slide where the recap with the animations. It was bouncing around. So good job.
Thank you,
All
Julia.
right. Thank you so much, Julia. So while Julia is giving her comment, I was looking at Naveen. I was like, Naveen is so ready to give his feedback. So take it away, Naveen.
Yeah, thank you, Jency, for the presentation. It was great. I like the slide designs and the content. But for me, it is like you are selling more Postman flow feature for me. It looks
Okay.
like you are more into the feature compared to the low code concept.
Mhm.
Do you agree, or do you have any other views?
Uh, uh, Maybe not to be offensive over here. Just the thought is like maybe the content would have projected in that manner, but my intention was not that to sell the product basically. It was
Yeah, I
something new
understand.
that I
But yeah,
learned.
but
Yeah.
it appeals that
Mm.
since you're talking more about Postman's flow feature,
Mm-hmm.
but I expected more into low code, no code funda.
Okay.
Probably you could
Okay.
have touched the 30 percentage of the feature, remaining
Mm-hmm.
70 percentage of the concept, so
Mm-hmm.
that people can more into that low code, no code thing.
Okay. Okay.
Basically, should be like agnostic in a way you project the feature,
Mm-hmm.
project the
Mm-hmm.
concept. Sorry.
Okay.
So if you take, for example, the complex flow, whatever you showed the demo or whatever you created, I'm not talking about simple ones. I'm talking
Mm.
about the complex ones. I feel like it will take more time to create or design for any non-experts,
Okay.
non-developers,
Mm. Mm.
because I last particularly the last example you showed me, it is little complex
Mm.
because it
Mm.
involves multiple components and then conditional loops, sorry, conditional statements, and then third party integrations, right?
Right. Right.
So you definitely would have put more effort.
Mm. Mm.
But for the business users or
Mm.
managers or
Mm.
non-technical users, that may be overwhelming for them, and it
Okay.
also might be
Mm.
time consuming when compared to writing JavaScript,
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
right? So probably would have focused on the low code, no code aspect, how low code can improve in that
Mm.
scenario,
Okay. Okay.
how we can improve the productivity. Something like that would have added more ingredients to your talk. But otherwise, I like the presentation, the
Mm.
way you explained the concept, the time, clarity, everything. It was good.
Okay. Okay. Noted.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Naveen.
Naveen. Yeah, so
Okay.
I believe that I think both sides has been giving their feedback to you, Jency, and I've seen you writing some notes. I hope
Yeah.
you are more pumped up and more eager to do more after this. Thank you, Jency. Thank you, Juliet, and thank you for our very first presentation. I would like to take this opportunity to thank and give a shout out to our episode partner, Prova, a complete testing solutions engineered for Salesforce application. You are watching Super Voice, and I'm your host, Safinah. Welcome back to the show. Let's welcome our next contestant, Swathiga. She is a result-driven professional with over 7 years of experience in manual and ETL testing, SQL, and progress 4GL development and documentation. Hi, Swathiga. How are you?
Hi,
How are you?
Safina. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Hope you're doing good. So,
I'm good too. Are you ready
yeah,
to start with your presentation?
yeah,
All right, take it away. The stage is
yeah.
yours.
Thank you. So today I'm going to speak about the ETL testing on Cloud9. So the topic itself, it really implies that cloud. So it is about the reality now, which is the cloud services are being used everywhere. So the what are all the cloud services are being efficiently used for ETL testing. So let's go to the next slide. So today I'm going to cover the three main points, which is mainly implies the need for the cloud services. The first one is manual ETL testing and its challenges, and the second is the cloud services, which are fairly used for the ETL testing, and the key takeaways, why do we need those services for the ETL testing. So let's quickly go to the next one. Okay, let me quickly go through this diagrammatic representation of the ETL. It's generally extract, transform, and load. So extract is it's extracting from the various source data like CRM and or ERP data or LOB data, which can be a flat files or the images, or it can be a CSV files, or it can be even the data from the other database. So these data will be according to the business logics and according to the rules which are defined by the business, maybe for the migration purpose to the other database, or for the application scale up, or for the new features. The transformation rules are being applied for on the source data, and then the transformed data will be loaded to the data warehouse. So on these three process, the ETL testing comes into the picture starting from the beginning. So from the source data, we will take the source data and apply all the transformation rules as per the business requirement given in the document, and those data transform and the compare the source data applied with the business rules with the target data. So the data comparison mainly happens here to make sure there is no data loss and no integrity, to maintain the data integrity. So the key checks performed in this is data count check and the minus checks and the integrity checks. This is all the key checks performed in the ETL testing. So this is a quick view about the ETL. So the hurdles. What are the hurdles which we are facing when we are the existing methods without using the cloud? Uh, the Oracle, for example, generally the testing ETL testing takes place by loading the data into the DB, any DB like Oracle or a MySQL server or a MongoDB, any DB. So the source files can be of any format. It can be the flat files or CSV files or the Parquet files like that. But the database generally have the compatibility issues. It can load only certain type of files. For example, Parquet files cannot be loaded in the Oracle DB. So due to which we have the we are facing the difficulty while testing the data. So and also the cross platform testing. Cross platform testing is like one data will be of from the files. For example, the data can be from the multiple sources, and from the multiple sources the data will be migrated to the target. So the one source can be a flat file, the other source can be a Parquet file, and the other source can be a database. So all these cross platform data, it is really tough or difficult, not direct straight approach is available for loading it into the DB and doing the ETL testing. So usage, the third point is usage of resources and its cost. For example, the data may be huge. So we generally in on-prem services we will have the database server, and in which the users will be giving the access with the keys and everything, their DB keys. With that we will load the data into the database. But what if suppose the data is very huge, 1 lakh records or 10 lakh 10 records, something like that, which need to be at least do the count check or something like that. So the resources will be like, for even if it's since it's even it may not be based on the application, it may be even one time the data may be very huge. So in that way we have to spend a lot for even one time testing to scale up the DB server size. So this is a limitation when we use the database server physically. So the below diagrammatical representation shows you the what are all the other features which are literally not able to make it by the physical servers. Multi-layer validation of transactions for the data from the various sources, and partners don't understand the format used, the Parquet files for example, validating complex and hierarchical data. So these are all the major hurdles which we are facing in the existing methods. So the future as of now in technology is the cloud technology, cloud services. So why cloud services? Pay as you use. It's like for example, hiring a car for the time which we require, and then we can give it back. So like that, pay as you use, so we can efficiently use the resource for the required time. For example, for one project, I maybe a short term project for 3 months or even a 1 week, I require a DB server of DB server of a huge size. So for that I don't need to pay for a long time. Just for 1 week I can pay. I can fix the size of the DB like that in the cloud services, and once I use it, I can exit back. So this is what the pay as use, and customizable according to the requirement. It's like even uh, the cloud services is also having the existing templates. Like how for example, how in the market when you go, this is a 100 gram, this is a 500 gram, like that the default templates of DB servers and the other services will be there. But not only that, according to our customizable requirement, no, I need only 150 MB for example, I'm saying, or I need only 1 TB, not I don't need the 2 TB. So I can customize the requirement. I can get the size whatever I require for example the DB which I use. So and the no and if, since it is in online, many will have the doubt, like there will be a chance of the security law data loss, or the any details which is used will be leaked out, the security will be a risk. But there is no, it's not like that. So the key pairs, or all the key pairs and the security key pairs, even if it is a cloud, it's a private cloud. So we will only the owner, the user who is paying it will have the access, as the cloud services will give the key security keys to us, to avoid the as a for enhancing the security. So this is about why we go for the cloud services. And yeah, in the market there are many cloud services, majorly Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud and AWS. So these are all the three major market player role players in the cloud now. So today I am going to speak on AWS, Amazon Web Services, where how the ETL testing is effectively being done using the AWS services. So serving at your desk, which means uh, what are all the available features one on your desk, one through the just through the online Amazon Web Services we have. So there are many features, let me go through one by one. So I am users, identity access management. So identity access management to control how other users use resources in your account. And you can use the security groups to control access to your EC2 instances. Also we can allow the limited use of EC2 resources also. So what does this really mean, identity and access management, IAM? So it means based upon our need, the owner when which we where we the owner where for the service which we are using, we can give based on the permissions and based on the list of rules defined, we can give access to the EC2 instance to the users. It's similar like for the set, like how granting access to a certain set of users by having a group. So like that, the account we will have the holding the role account, and the identity access management users will be under that account. Depends on the users, we can give the permissions of the what are all the services they can use. So this is about the identity access use management. And for in testing perspective, the testers we need to have one account, so for using the Amazon Web Services. So in this what all the for as per tester perspective, he or she don't need to use all the services in terms of the infrastructure side, or the loading the data, or the maintenance side. He or she requires to, with respect to ETL testing, he or she requires to use only the database side, and the other database related services like PySpark or Athena, like that. So based on this identity access management, the owner can give control to the users. And VPC, virtual private cloud, this is mainly needed for anyone to use the AWS services. It's like it's like similar to the traditional network which is available which is available in the on-prem, having our own data center. But here we will be having it in the AWS cloud. And this is in this AWS cloud, we can scale up the infrastructure by like dynamically, by scaling up and scaling down based on our requirement. So this is the VPC, virtual private cloud launch. And in this we can EC2 instance can be created. Why EC2 instance? EC2 instance is created, EC2 for any service to be used. For example, with respect to ETL testing, for using the PySpark service, we need the EC2 instance to be created. Through the EC2 instance, it will be allotting a dynamically IP address. So through that IP address, we will load the whatever the files loaded in the AWS cloud services, we can access it through the EC2 instance. Security keeper. So this is what I said earlier, like Amazon, when we are accessing the private cloud, it's not like it's not a public one. We will have, so the Amazon Web Services will share the key pair. One will be the private key, we will be storing it. The other will be a public key, which will be stored in Amazon EC2. So it's like lock and key. So when the key which we are using, which is given in the when we give it, then only we can able to access, we can access the EC2 instance, and through which we can access the other services. And it also provides third party library support such as Python library, Pandas library, SQL library, and PySpark library. So these libraries are extensively used for the ETL testing. As a ETL tester, for example, there is a scenario, there are like 100 tables need to be tested, and the almost the transformations are similar. There is not extensively different transformation rules are given in the document. In that case, I can use the Python programming and just create a framework, and in that I can just pass the defaultly place the queries, because for example, select name and customer ID, like that, and from the source, and select name, customer ID, and the target. So select name, customer ID from source one, select name, customer ID from it's similarly like this I have for 100 tables. So when I'm doing it manually, I have to execute manually, take the screenshots, and it's like quite tough to maintain the reports also. But when using the AWS services, using the Python programming, I can create a framework, and in that customizably I can give the table name and the column names as parameters, just the parameters. And in that, when I trigger the Python program through the EC2 instance in the cloud, it will be the my framework, whichever the logic I have given, the program will take care of reading all the tables, and reading all the source and target tables, and whatever the query I already fed as parameter uh, will be uh, will be triggered, and the it will be using the Athena. Python will be using the Athena. It's Athena framework, so it's like it will be using the Athena query builder also. And in the background it will do that query execution. And based on the requirement, I can generate a report by printing the report in the CSV Excel sheet, or or a d- or a just this from the screen I can just take the screenshot, like how many test cases executed, how many test cases failed, like how many how many tables are passed, how many tables are failed, like that. So this third party library support is mainly used for the SQL and ETL testing purpose. And S3 sandbox storage. S3 sandbox storage, it's like this is where like Oracle DB and or Microsoft DB, uh, it can handle only certain type of files, but S3 sandbox storage can store any type of files, can store Parquet files, or directly the database, or directly the flat files or CSV files. We can directly upload the data in the sandbox in the S3 sandbox storage. So through this, what I can do, like for example, the sources are different. The source file is for example, it is coming from the application, so it is a CSV file. I have to compare the CSV file data, and the target is already it is loaded into the database. So how I can compare the cross platform? So through the I can upload the file in the S3 sandbox storage, and I and already the database also is I can upload the database data in the S3 sandbox storage, and through the EC2 instance with the PySpark I can read the files. And that PySpark has the capability of reading the files dynamically, and create the just with the Spark read option, dynamically it can create the files, and it can load the files, and it can load it into the temp table, whatever with the table name we are giving. So we through the temp table and the database which is already been in the S3 sandbox storage, we can access that in the PySpark, and through that we can compare the data. So it supports all cross platform testing, and the all the file patterns as well. Let's move to the other features. So it has many features, like S3 block public access. It means like by default, block public access settings are turned on at the account and the bucket level. And again, I said AWS identity access management. It will like creating the users for the AWS account to manage the S3 resources. For example, we can use the uh, uh, you know uh, identity access management to control the type of access for a certain set of user or a group of users to access the S3 bucket. Only for certain S3 buckets we can, for certain S3 sandbox storage points, we can give access to certain set of group, certain group of people, like that. So this AWS identity access management is mainly for the giving the permissions to the access users. And S3 object ownership, it's it is like, as the bucket owner we can automatically have the own and full control of the object, but also we can control the data based on the policies. So this S3 objects, once we load the data, it's not like we can we cannot edit it, or we cannot uh, delete it or something like that. We can have the whole ownership, and we can also give the permission to the users who can upload it and who cannot upload it and who can delete it. For example, as a ETL tester, I in my routine, like I upload the file, I have the access to upload the file and you for testing, but I don't have the access to delete it, because as from a ETL test, as from the AWS point of view, the owner will have the will have to have the control, like what all the files are deleted, why they are deleted. So they just limited the access, so the security is not compromised also. And the other important feature is Athena. It's an interactive query, query service engine. So it's like it is easy for to analyze the data efficiently, like directly. The database is already through the AWS data catalog. The tables are already placed, through that we can access the tables. And this through this Athena's query engine, we can directly, how we can directly query in the Oracle. It provides the platform to directly write the queries and see the data. So for the analysis, we can directly use the Athena for the query execution, to why if the data is failed, even the for even if it is both both the source and target are in the database format, Athena will be more compatible for query execution and testing purpose. And what are all the other services integrated with Athena? Elastic load balancing. This is where EC2, I have already explained, EC2 instance, through which we will use the PySpark services for manipulating the for testing the data of various formats. And AWS glue data catalog, it is where the glue services are coming in to integrate the various format of data into one place using the AWS glue services. And identity and access management is also already integrated with Athena, I have explained to you earlier. And S3 inventory is nothing but the S3 sandbox and the Amazon virtual private cloud. This is the main thing. Without this, we cannot access the EC2 instance, and we cannot access a PySpark or Athena. So, and here, for example, in Oracle DB, when there is some when there is some during the test execution, okay, the developer needs to fix some bug and they have to reload the data again. It's like the physically they have to, if it is a like large amount of data or small amount of data, there will be a downtime, and the data will not be available. But here, in AWS, when the testing is going on and the dev parallelly needs to fix the logic, they will give the it's like kind of a batch ID and cycle ID. When we test the when we do testing on one particular batch ID and cycle ID, batch ID and cycle ID is nothing but the scheduled job details given by the developer for the data load. So for example, the cycle ID one, on that cycle ID I'm doing the testing, but there is some fixes going on, so the developer has to load the data again. So he will load the data on the next cycle ID 2, so which will not affect my testing. So and also the crawlers is enough to refresh the data. Crawler refresh is enough to do the data loads and the data refresh and everything. So let's go to the next slide. AWS in ETL. So this is the diagrammatical representation, like how what is the part of AWS services in ETL. So here the data stores from the different from the store, the data is coming, the crawler, through the crawlers the data is being moved to the data catalog, and the scheduled job is already the job will be scheduled. With that, the script, transformation script given by the BA, the requirement document, whatever the transformation rules, that will be applied. and the data will be with the transform data it is loaded into the target. And this data catalog, for data catalog the AWS management console is needed. Through this only the AWS data catalog will be accessed. And as a part of, as a ETL tester, what I'll be doing, the source data will be a source data, it is the source data I can load into the S3 storage box. And the target data will be already there. Target data, if it is going to the other application, I can also load it to the S3 storage box. And then I can use using the Athena query builder and the job details given, PT cycle ID or the batch ID given by the developer. With that I can um, test the I can do the data check between the source and target with the transformation rules applied on the source data, and the directly the versus the target data, through which my test execution will be done. So it's very simple, all in one place. So, and also parallelly when I'm executing, I will not be having any lag even when the developer fix on something, and they when they reload the data on the next cycle ID. Let's move to the next slide. So the takeaways, the key takeaways as a part of ETL testing is Athena, S3 sandbox, EC2 instance, and the PySpark. Athena is someone who should know, it's similarly like a SQL, but there are certain syntax difference will be there, but the concepts are same. And the S3 sandbox, one should know as a ETL tester, one should know, like for for loading and for loading the files, and for loading the data into the database, and for for the test execution we should know the S3 sandbox details. And EC2 instance, without EC2 instance we cannot access the AWS services. And through the EC2 instance we can access PySpark services and Python libraries, all those things. And PySpark was also a SQL language. But the thing is, it is in the it is like it is passed as a parameters. And it is mainly main advantage of PySpark is like any type of data, file format of data, or database format of data, or the Parquet files, any format of data will be can be easily tested using the PySpark. So this is the key takeaways for which is essential for the ETL testing. So thank you for listening to me so far. So these are all the credits I can give. So anyone have any questions?
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Swathiga, for the presentation. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
you
thank
can
you.
turn on your video.
Yeah.
All right. So I believe that you, as a first time listening to your presentation, you started off right from the ETL definition itself, and then you continue naturally to ramp up into cloud services through the end. Yeah. So that is, to me, that is perfect. But let's hear from the judges. This round, I will rotate a little bit and I will call upon Naveen to share your feedback first. Take it away, Naveen.
Yeah, thank you, Safinah. Thank you, Swati. It was a great presentation. It's a unique topic, so I was more leaned towards the ETL testing. Basically, you bake the cake, but the cake is about AWS, and ETL is about on the cherry top or sprinkle. What I expected was a cake should be about ETL, the cloud should be on the sprinkle or the cherry top. So it went other way around. So whenever you pick a topic like this, right, you have to be a little agnostic when it comes to the implementation part, so that people don't get biased. That is one thing. And it will always useful for any leaders who is watching this, so that they can easily approach the right vendors for their needs. So try to be agnostic, not just cloud. Any topic if you take, you just be a little agnostic with respect to solutions. That is one thing. And with respect to presentation, again, you have a lot of texts in your PowerPoints, and basically it is not balanced. So whatever you're trying to say, and a lot of text. So people, whether you people read or you listen. So people, listener, the audience will get deviated, distracted. So probably you would have some points, and you can little bit touch about the product or the service, about whatever you're talking, right? So that balance you can improve a little bit. and a
Okay.
little bit of flow. Probably you could have practiced a little bit more, but otherwise, I see the great content wise, it is great. And I expected more into ETL concepts, but only last few slides only about ETL. So most of the
Okay.
stuff's about AWS and other introduction. So probably you can put more thoughts on the core content probably
Okay.
in future. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Thanks, Naveen.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Naveen. How about you, Julia? Do you agree or do you have something more to add on to this?
Yeah, I agree with them for what Naveen said. So thanks, Swati, for sharing. So I definitely agree that I was expecting more on ETL, and you spoke more about AWS. How you could have connected them was you had a lot of definitions about AWS stuff. So where you had those definitions, you could have said, for example, Athena, and maybe linked it back to ETL and say, this is how it would fit into the ETL process if I was going to do ETL testing. I didn't really get that. I was more getting definitions of the different things that AWS could do. Also, as Naveen said, you had a lot of words on your slide. So for me, I was trying to read them and then you were talking about something different. So, for example, you were talking about Python and query execution and how the database was set up, but and third-party libraries. But on your slides, you had definition of like security key pairs. So that made it a bit hard to follow and connect with what you were saying. Also, the flow of what you were talking about, it kind of got lost because you started giving me definitions of AWS. I was questioning myself like what was really the topic of what you were talking about. I did like your slides. I like the color of them. I thought that the idea with the light bulb and the crushed paper, that was really nice. I liked the font choice and so on, but I think you had a lot of wording and you didn't really connect ETL with what you were talking about throughout. A comment that I also gave, put where people can find you. So if you have a Twitter or a LinkedIn, you can have that at the top or bottom of your slides so that if you said something that I wanted to share, I can quickly share that. Um, I would suggest that for me, what works is I create speaker notes for each slide and I practice so that I don't go over time or I don't rush trying to get everything out and everything done. So I think with some practice and rearranging the content to kind of fit with the topic, and because you sounded like you were talking about an experience, you have done ETL testing and you want to share that with us. And one of the tools that you've used is AWS, but it came across as these are just some definitions of AWS, and afterwards you kind of started talking a bit about your experience. So if you reformat that, I think it would be a really great presentation because I haven't done this type of testing before. So when you started out, I was really excited to learn about it. But I think the way the content was presented, if you improve that, it can be a really great talk.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Julia. Swathiga, I believe you have taken few key takeaways, at least from Naveen to find the balance, and also from Julia to restructure and reformat the content so that when you package it, it looks more holistic in your next presentation. So thank you and all the best to you, Swathiga.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Julia.
thank you
Thanks,
to
Naveen.
Julia and also
Yeah.
Naveen.
Yeah.
Are
Thanks.
you guys ready? I'm going to call upon Chinmayee. She is a full stack QA engineer with over 10 years of experience who is also passionate about testing and test automation. You can always find her in GitHub because she is a frequent contributor over there. How are you, Chinmayee? How do you feel?
I'm doing fine, Safinah.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, take it away. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Start.
Yes.
Namaste. Good morning. First of all, I want to wish you a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all my friends who have connected across the globe. I pray Lord Ganesh to shower you with good health, knowledge, and happiness and make the world a better place to stay in. This is your presenter Chinmayee Baitharu, and I am going to present you on the topic API automation solving real world problems. So let's have a quick glance on the table of contents. So I have divided the topic into mainly four parts. First of all, I will be talking on the ambiguities in the project management tools. Second is I will be talking on what is the problem is like. Third is the testing approach, and fourth is the solution. So with this, let's dive to the first topic. The project management tools. For any organization, what is that vital key that lays the foundation of building the great products? Any guesses? It is the effective teamwork. Now, more and more organizations, they are adapting to rapid continuous processes such as agile. And it is not only limited to software industries, but the industries across. So, what is a project management tool? It is what it helps to correlate the activities and the people together so that they can plan, manage, and report their work. There are altogether many big players in the industry today with their project management products, and they are trying to get hold of the user base by making their products highly configurable and flexible. So what does that mean? Does it mean that project management tools like give you like a 100% complete solution? Nah, that sounds too good to be true. Like many things having their downsides, this too has its disadvantages, and that disadvantage being the human factor. Oh, it just reminded me of my earlier presentation, the human effects of testing, but rather in this one, the human beings are on the other side. So, what does the project mainly consist of? The project mainly consists of the work which is broken down into smaller pieces, and they are called the issues. The issues can be anything ranging from features, user stories, tasks, and bug that give you a detailed information like the assignee, what is the priorities, what is the status like, and what is the current sprint. So with this, let us talk about the challenges that we face in the project management tools. Oh, I can see the slides moving. Don't you see that? Shall I continue from here? Do you see slide? Yes, yes. Okay. So with this, let me talk about the day-to-day challenges that we face in a workplace that is related to the project management tools. And let's talk about the ambiguities. I am sure that would have experienced that when you're scrolling the PM dashboard, you would have come across something like some buttons don't work. The web page does not load. That green tick symbol, it is not aligned. So does it catch the assignee's attention? Are they real call to the action? No, right? They're very generic and bland, right? So next time when you are creating any issues, you have to encourage your team to come up with the proper, clear, and concise titles so that when you're reading through the titles, you already have a plan that what it intends to resolve. With this, let's talk about the next ambiguity, that is no description. This is what most of the QA people can correlate to. I am sure you would have come across some of the bugs which have no descriptions, no steps to reproduce, no environmental details, no screenshots, no attachments, no error logs. So, wait, why did you raise a bug at the first place? You raised it because you wanted the stakeholders to know that there is an issue with your application. But instead, you ended up creating a project blocker. Can you imagine the time and effort that goes when this issue is ping pong between the QA and the dev team. So it is very much advisable to add a proper description to the issues so that it can go to the assignee and they can pick up the task and start working on it rather than chasing the people to understand what is it all about. With this, let me talk about the third major ambiguity, that is no status. So status are very much vital to any issues. Why? Because if you're assigned any task, you might be actually working on it, or you are either blocked on it, or their work is in progress, right? So it is actually essential to keep the things moving forward so that it gives you a clear picture where you actually stand in the project and you oversee the project milestone. Now let's me talk about the no priority. An accurate perspective on the problem is the key. What if you do not give a clear perspective on the bugs, right? You are, for example, if I'm talking about the emergency priorities, like the blockers and the blocker ones especially, and the critical ones. So they basically try to get the attention of the assignees because they have to be picked first. Rather, don't try to heat up the atmosphere and exaggerate by creating as many number of emergency priority items. Rather, try to give a clear perspective so that the person can pick it up on priority and do the immediate action, and the whole of the team can focus on the most pressing issues. With this, let me talk about the last ambiguity, which is commonly found, which is no or two comments. So why do we add comments to the issues? We do add comments to the issue because that needs collaborative work. It is to say that we are blocked on such and such issue and we want the attention, right? So to keep the things moving forward, we need the issues to get highlighted. The project manager always stays on the top of the events to identify such issues that work as, or that create, or that may be the obstacles in a process moving forward, or they may be slowing down the process overall. So having discussed all these ambiguities, does it mean in reality? In reality, it is highly frustrating and irritating to see the time and effort that needs to have gone into the project completion work is now getting into minimizing the gaps between the project management activities. So that is where I want to lay down the problem statement. So here the problem basically is the members start chasing one another with tons of explanatory questions. Disruption and distraction are sneaking into the process. It reduces the teamwork effectiveness. And if I try to be crisp here, what is my problem statement is that I want to minimize the gap in the project management. So with this, let us move to the solution. But wait, prior moving to the solution, I need to have a testing approach. For the testing approach to work on, I need to have a plan. And for the plan to work, I should see what are the resources handy with me. Okay, so what I had a handful of RESTful APIs. And if I go with the industry standards, 78% of organizations are mainly basing on the APIs, which is rest assured because of its lightweight nature. For me, the PM APIs that I was targeting into, so they were the RESTful APIs. They were public APIs. The public APIs are the APIs which are exposed to external developer and organizations. So it was not a problem for me to get hold of the specs. I found it online, and the specs talk about the contract. what is the parameters like, what is the status code is expected, and what the API intends to do. Then I needed to validate and test the secured APIs. And to do that, I needed to have the authentication and authorization in place. For authorization, I needed the admin privilege, which I had to access those specific APIs to my project. And for authorization, I relied on OAuth 2.0, wherein when I provided the valid credentials, the system gave me a user token that is valid for a certain amount of time, but that remains valid across the user session. It might happen that the session can be limited to some time frame of expiry, but I could manage with that time because the API runs web faster and it was within seconds. So the RESTful APIs that I considered for automation were, these are the few endpoints that I want to present. They were for creating the issue, for deleting the issue, for adding comments to the issue, to get that of the work log. So work log or workflow basically means the set of transitions that the issue undergoes in the life cycle. Whatever to and fro, comment addition or statuses change or priority addition you do to any issues, that is being logged in the workflow. And finally, I used the API to fetch all those issues that is specific to that of the product. So here you can see the endpoints are scattered over the HTTP verbs like put, post, delete, and get. With this, let's move to the solution. So as a part of the solution, I developed and designed an automation framework. So what were the key components of the automation framework? I based my automation as a Maven project. Why Maven? Because Maven gives you form.xml. This is where you write or you include all the dependencies that is needed for your project. I based, and also in case there is a version update of those dependencies, you can very well accommodate in the pom.xml, and that is easy. I based my project as a BDD Cucumber project because I wanted it to be comprehensive for the non-technical users, and I wanted to focus mainly on the user interactions with the system. Then I got use of Rest Assured library. That's a savior. The Rest Assured library is provided by Java, and that actually helps in automating the APIs, which is in the form of HTTP requests. And finally, I relied on JUnit for executing the test runner. And the test runner is a file which is specific to the BDD framework. And I also used JUnit for assertions. I wanted to now focus on the middle part of the slide, which is depicting what is a BDD framework basically is, the flow. So it actually demarcates the business part and the technology part. If I talk about the business part, it mainly consists of the feature files. The feature files again consist of scenarios. If I talk about scenarios, then correlate your test cases to the scenarios. The scenarios then consist of steps, and your steps means the test steps. So when you are interacting with the API, you write all those steps, right? Like when you are creating the request header, which are the endpoints you want to target, which are the path parameters, and what is the status code expected. And if you're doing an end-to-end automation, you can very well verify it on the UI. Now coming to the technology facing part, right? So here comes the step definition file. The step definition file is a Java file, which actually where the code resides. It's a definition of what are the steps written that were written in the scenarios, right? And I have tried to use modularization and abstraction as much as possible because all those API interactions, I have limited that code in my automation library. Apart from this, there will be other utilities also, like the properties file where you maintain your global parameters, the session token being generated, being maintained over there. And also there are reports. And for reports, there are several dependencies that can be added to your framework. So what are the automation techniques I targeted on? So first of all, I tried to separate the test layer with the API services. So that I achieved when I tried to incorporate the BDD Cucumber framework, because with the test case writing, I relied on the feature files, and with the coding part, I relied on the automation library and the step definitions. Then coming to the next important concept, which is called serialization and deserialization and of the JSON payload. The APIs that I considered for automation, they were exchanging the data in the form of JSON. Basically, there are two formats in which the API they transfer the data. It can be XML based, it can be JSON based. And serialization, deserialization concept does apply to both. So what is serialization? It is a concept in Java where you actually change the Java objects to the byte stream that can be written to the file. So I am creating the Java objects, creating the payloads, passing them to the API request, and then comes into play the deserialization. That is, I'm getting the responses from the API, which is in the form of JSON format, and then changing it to the Java objects. And how do I achieve it? I achieve it with the Pojo class concept in Java. The Pojo class is a plain old Java object. For a layman, I would say that it is a class with the variables, private variables, and a lot of getters and setters. But one thing is to remember here is whatever parameters are there in the JSON file, the same parameters name have to be included as variables in the Pojo classes. Otherwise, it will start troubling you out. And how did I apply the serialization concept? By making use of lot of dependencies which is available online, and mainly they were the Jackson data bind, the Jackson core, the Jackson annotation, and JSON. And also, I included in my framework the refactoring of the request headers that I will be talking in a short while. So this slides mainly presents the dry run. So when I had decided that I would be automating the APIs, the first and foremost thing was to understand that I get hold of the session token and I get some statuses code from the API. So if you can see clearly, you would see that I have actually hard-coded the payload over here, right? Because my actual aim was to get the response from the APIs. But going forward in the automation framework, this has been optimized, and you don't have to hard code any of the payloads. So this slides mainly presents the code snippets. If I want to focus on the first screen, on the first screenshot, so this is how the feature file looks. The feature file includes here the background and scenario. I would say that BDD Cucumber is highly annotated. Here I am focusing to run the smoke tests. The background runs like for every scenario. In the background, I have actually included the step to generate the session token that remains valid for the entire user session. And this scenario mainly talks about how to create an issue with the request specification headers, having the valid headers, having the payload created, and then you are sending the API post request, and then you are getting a status 200 OK, and then you are validating the parameters which are fetched from the responses. The second screenshot, which is adjacent to that, it mainly talks about how we refactored the request and response headers. So when you're targeting to hit any API, which is in the form of the base URI and the endpoints, so the base URI remains common for all the API requests. The addition of headers like the session token, the application content, that is the JSON format that remains constant for all the APIs. And if I talk about the responses, there with the status that you expect and the content type, that also remains same. So does that mean that I would be writing the whole of the thing, right? Given, when, then, post, and everything every now and then when I am automating n number of APIs? No. So here I will take the advantage which is given by the request specification builder and the response specification builder. This is how it will make the request headers and the response, they generalize, so that when I'm trying to automate the APIs next time, I can focus on the endpoints, and if it takes any path parameters, I can include that. So coming to the third screenshot, it is where you can see actually the deserialization happening, right? So when I am trying to fetch the response from the APIs, it is getting converted to the Java object, and then all the parameters get stored in the Java object, right? So once you have the parameters stored there, you can very well check for the expected and the observed values, and then you can store the parameters, and that parameters can be sent to the next set of the APIs as inputs. And as I am creating the payloads programmatically, you can always take the advantage, and you don't have to worry about n number of APIs if I want to change one parameter with some other values or not, because that is being handled programmatically. You just have to mention which parameter you want to modify or you want to tweak. And one addition to the feature file, I can say that you can also make use of the parameterization. Like I want to run a test, that is a change of one particular parameter. So that is where I rely on the scenario outline, which is given by BDD Cucumber, and I mention the parameter values. Then it will iterate over all those parameter values, and it will actually hit the 5 APIs with different parameter set. Now coming to the last screenshot in the slide, it talks about the reporting. So this is the PDF format where you can actually share with that of the stakeholders. There are other formats for reporting as well, and they can be included as a part of dependency in the POM. And my framework supports all kinds of reports like HTTP reports and PDF reports. With this, I wanted to share with you the best practices and benefits. So if you are working on the automated API tests, then it is very much essential that you familiarize yourself with the API. That will be saving you a lot of time during automation part. I should know what that API intends to do so as to automate it. I cannot just go and automate the APIs to see that of the status code or get hold of the responses. Choose correct and right framework that suits the defined requirements. That is why I relied on BDD Cucumber, because I wanted to focus on my problems, that is the minimizing the gaps of project management. Now work towards the prioritizing the APIs. So when I shared with you the set of the endpoints, so I prioritize, like, first of all, I will be getting all those project specific issues. From that of the issues, I will be finding out which are the ones that do not have the vital information, like no description, no statuses, no priority. I would fetch the IDs from there, and then if I want to delete it, I will delete it, and if I wanted to add some comments to it, I can add to it. Choosing the right tools and technology. There are a lot of players in that of the market, but I relied on REST full services and BDD Cucumber. So next time when you are choosing that of the tools, then you have to take into account the ROI and design your test cases properly, because that is where it can give you a clear picture of what you were trying to automate. What are the benefits of doing automation testing? It is GUI independent, the time and cost effective. It can give you the results in like seconds. It tests the core functionality because it mainly talks about the business logic layer, and it is technology independent. You don't have to actually worry about the front end technology. With this, I want to present you one very interesting aspect. So when I was trying to automate those APIs, what one thing I was missing, the security testing of the APIs. So I could not figure out how to include in my REST assured framework, but I could see that Postman has added a new feature, which is called as Bind, where you need to have only a Postman collection and you run over it, and then it will give you run your APIs over the top 10 vulnerabilities which is available, and it will run the test. Like you can see over here, there is like 180 tests being run, and you can say that the pass and failure rate of the APIs. Isn't it wonderful that you get to know about the security of the APIs as well? So with this, I will conclude my talk trying to connect the dots, that we started with the problem statement that I wanted to manage the PM gaps. I took hold of the solution that I did the automation of the APIs. Finally, from the API automation, I got hold of some of the interesting facts that I went back and discussed with my team, and then I improved my project management processes. With this, I conclude. Thank you all for being a wonderful audience.
All right. Thank you so much, Chinmayee. So I think what I like about your presentation is that first, this is obvious and that it is very engaging. And then in a glance, that you give us the heads up of all the subtopics in the beginning. So that actually keeps me focused. But again, that is just me. So what do you think about this topic, Julia? Let's hear your feedback first. Ladies first.
Yeah, thanks, Chinmayee, for sharing. I really liked your enthusiasm about the topics. I really liked the slides that you had. They were really engaging and eye-catching. Some suggestions that I would have for you in the beginning, if you could have let me know, kind of what you did in in the end, like how the problem statement would connect to the solution that you were going to show me, to let me know that this is something that you've experienced. You were sharing a kind of lived experience, and that you used API automation. And because when you first started first slide, the topic of it was API automation. Then you started talking about project management, and I was kind of wondering maybe you said it and I missed it, but I was wondering a bit how that connected. Also, where the slides where you had the 4 screenshots, if you could have separated those into 4 different slides, that would have been really good. Because for me, it was when you were talking about the step definitions and that sort of thing, I had to be like, okay, what slide was that on? And so it was a bit hard for me to really grasp the screenshot within the slide I should be looking on. So if you could have separated those out, that would have been really perfect. Overall, though, I really enjoyed your enthusiasm. I enjoyed that it had a really good flow. Once I realized that was what you were talking about, your experience really connected for me. And so I was able to follow along. I like that you shared the different tools that you use. You talked about using Maven and Cucumber and why you use it and the benefit of it. I would have liked a more direct connection with your problem statement to say, these are the exact things that using API automation solved. I think I kind of missed that a bit. So if you could have had a recap slide where you talked about that, that would have added to the presentation for me. But overall, I really liked what you did, and I think it was a really good job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Julia. So how about you, Naveen? Any key takeaways for Chinmayee?
Yeah, I'm just adding whatever Julia said. So my point is, if you remove that ambiguities problem statement from the equation, your presentation is just about automation, right? So the essence is automation, not project management or not other things, because you covered more into your framework. You didn't focus on the problem statement or the solution. 80% of the content is for the automation. And I was thinking, okay, I thought you were trying to modernize the automation framework, but I saw Maven suddenly. Okay, why not Gradle? And then again you are going back 10 years before. in the framework stack. I mean, I'm not debating Maven versus Gradle. What I'm saying is, I was expecting some kind of a modern framework. Okay, that is one thing. I mean, that is my perspective. That is one thing. And probably you would have added some more about CI/CD, because you're talking about automation, but you're presenting something running locally or independently or running the screenshots. So if you added that CI/CD, and then security testing is a good flavor, you added that one. And then the format of your presentation is kind of a little dramatic, I would say, but I don't know that is the appropriate structure for this event. I don't know. I'm just leaving it to you. But otherwise, yeah, great content, and this time you managed the time, so that is good. Good takeaway. You did it last time. Yeah. Overall, yeah, I liked it. The content, everything, I liked it. But yeah, those are my perspectives. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing
All
the
right.
feedback. It
Thank
was,
you so
I'll
much.
try to improve.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Naveen and Julia. And to you, Chinmayee, although this is a knockout rounds, I would like to just remind you that your journey in public speaking continues. And for that, I wish you thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We are winding up this awesome episode, but we will definitely come back for more power pack episodes with more presentation and learnings. Our contestant needs your support, so please do share your feedback and vote for them from the link provided. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't have to be fear of missing out. So see you soon on our next episode. Till then, Safinah is signing off. Bye.